Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. So I'm going to show you guys the trades I was holding from last week and some of the trades I took this week, and we'll take it from there. So let's start by doing a quick trade recap. So I'm going to pull this up. Let's see right here. Alright guys, so let's do the trade recap thing, and let's start with the gold trade. So I'm going to show you because I struggled a lot with gold this week, and I think I had 2 losses on this pair. So from last week I was holding this buy position, so I had these buy positions on gold. I took the buys here, and the intention was to see this prices taking out these highs so we could test the next psychological level, which was I think 20, which was 3,000. That was a little bit further, but price didn't play out the way I was expecting it to, so I had a loss on this. This was the initial buy attempt on gold, and I had -1 at this point. I re-attempted the buys on gold again, so I came in again with the buys on gold again, same thing. So I had an initial buy here, I got stopped out. I had another buy here, but at this point I went in with 0.5% risk because I had -1 here already, and I wasn't really sure of the setup and stuff like that. So I went in with 0.5% at this point, and I got stopped out again. So I had another -0.5. So at this point I was down -1.5% on gold for the week, and then I saw another buy opportunity again, so I took these buys again at this point. And the principle and the intention again is just the same thing. I'm looking at these highs to get taken out, and I'm looking at other levels above these highs, and possibly the psychological level, I think 3,000. So that's what I'm looking at on this pair. I'm still holding these buys on gold, and I'll see how this plays out. So we'll do the market focus thing, and then we'll see how this is going to play out. So that's what I had on gold. So let's look at NAS100. So with NAS100, I closed the position I was holding from last week. So if you guys remember, we had this buy position. So I had these buys, we had this impulse, we had price coming back down. So I still had these buy positions on my thing. So I was holding these buys, and I'll show you where I closed this. So we look at the trade management thing. I eventually closed this once price got to 22,000. So once price got to 22,000, which was this psychological level, I closed the buys on NAS100. So this move alone gave me, I think, plus 5.6%. So we closed the NAS position at plus 5.6%. Then let's look at the S&P one. Let's look at the S&P. I struggled with the S&P as well. So this is what I was looking at on the S&P. We had this initial move to the upside, we had this consolidation, and I was looking for the pivot point to take the buys from. So I was expecting prices to continue its move to the upside. However, I got stopped out on this, and I'll show you this right here. I got stopped out on this, and price just tanked to the downside. So this was a -1 for me on the S&P 500. And this brings us to the end log with the trade recap thing. So those are all the positions I took, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking out for next week. So let's look at the charts real quick. Alright guys, so let's look at the DXY, and we'll start with the DXY from the daily time frame. So here's what I'm looking on the daily time frame for the DXY. We had this initial move to the upside, and I've been saying this during the previous weeks as well. We had this initial move to the upside, we had this consolidation, we had a pivot point that got set, and price took off, giving us the next impulse or the next swing move. So from this swing move, we've seen this consolidation thing again, but going off of what's happening on the daily time frame, you should at one point expect prices to come back to this daily trend line and test this trend line, so we can see prices moving again to the upside and a possible test of these highs. So currently, if you're looking at this from the daily time frame, this trend line hasn't been tested on the daily time frame, but on lower time frames like the 8-hour time frame, the pivot has been set already on the 8-hour time frame. So if I take this out and I just look at this, going off of what we're looking at, let's say psychological levels from the daily time frame, price went through 105, which is the psychological level right here, and price is most likely going to gravitate to the next psychological level, which is 110. So going off of psychological levels, we still have this possibility for prices to move all the way to 110, but then we need to move down to lower time frames like the 8-hour time frame and see if there's any trend line we're looking at that might cause some difficulties. So when you step down to the 8-hour time frame, we're looking at this move now on the 8-hour time frame, which was like the swing move on the daily time frame. So this is the move we're looking at. You had this swing move on the daily time frame, you had this consolidation. So it's the same thing. You might see price giving you a move like this, you see a pullback, then you see price taking off, or you see price moving to the upside. It gives you this consolidation, and then price takes off. So these things is like basically the same thing for me, just one is horizontal and then one is sloping to the downside. So one is horizontal and then one is vertical. So let's clean this, and then the same move again we're looking at. You have your impulse move, you have your consolidation, you have your pivot set. So once you have a pivot that has been set, now all you can look for is where price is most likely going to gravitate to. So going off of this on the 8-hour time frame, I'm looking at these highs right here. We should be testing these highs on the DXY at some point in time. So going off of the structures we have in here, you have this minor move to the upside, and price is giving you this impulse correction. There's an impulse, there's a correction, and we just went through a psychological level again of 105. And so the next psychological level I'm looking at from the 8-hour time frame is 110. So if price keeps maintaining this move to the upside, we should see prices testing 110. So now you need to step down to lower time frames, let's say the 4-hour time frame, and try to make sense of this piece of price action right here, because this is the key for me coming into next week on the DXY. If I can tell what this piece of price action is trying to do, like if I can interpret this correctly, then it becomes very easy for me to pick this directional move again on the DXY coming into next week. So if I clean this, I'll take this one more time. There's an impulse, there's a correction, or there's a consolidation. The pivot is set. We're expecting prices to go to the upside and take out this point. And if price has to go to the upside, we're looking at the psychological levels to get tested. So that is straightforward, that's easy. But now the problem is, let's look at the 4-hour time frame. So I'm looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, and now this is becoming very interesting on the 4-hour time frame. So you have a similar move on the 4-hour time frame. You have your impulse, you have a correction, you have your impulse right here, you have a correction, and you had price taken up to the upside. So we took out these highs on the 4-hour time frame. But when you look at this area right here, it's a shallow break of those highs. So we still have price reacting from this trend line. So a pullback here, price took off, price came back to this area, and price took off. So while you're looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, if we still have prices moving to the upside, there's a possibility we might see prices coming back to this trend line and taking off. Let's say price comes back to this trend line and you see prices moving again to the upside. So just going off of the principle of trend lines, you could see prices coming back to this trend line and it takes off all the way to 110. Now there's a possibility you can look at this and also anticipate a movement back to this psychological level of 105. And here's the reason I'm saying there's a possibility for us to see prices coming back to 105. So every time you see price going through a psychological level, so we went through the psychological level, giving you this impulsive move, price came back, but we didn't have a test of this area of 105. So we didn't test 105 and price is moving to the upside. So there's a possibility you could see prices trading again to the downside, just so we can test 105 and then a further move again to the upside. So this right here is the second possibility. So the first possibility, you have price moving and respecting this trend line. If you see prices coming back to this trend line and you see this trend line respecting and holding, then you can see prices moving again to the upside. That's the first possibility. Now second possibility, you could see prices coming back to this trend line. You see an attempt again from the buyers to take prices to the upside and it failed. So if buyers try to take prices to the upside and they fail, then you could see this trend line on the 4-hour time frame getting violated. And once this trend line gets violated on the 4-hour time frame, now it becomes very easy, because at this point I would tell you, if price finds it difficult to take off from this area to the upside to take out these highs, then we could see prices coming back to test 105. So currently, while you're looking at, let's say, the DXY, and again this is very important because this piece of price action on the 4-hour time frame can tell you a lot. And if you have it correct, let's say coming into next week, if you can anticipate these moves correctly, on the 4-hour time frame. I think this is very crucial looking at the overall structure. We know price has to move to the upside. Looking at what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, looking at what's happening on the daily time frame, we know where price is headed to. But as price is moving to the upside, it's going to have periods where you're having these pullbacks. It's going to have periods where you're having these consolidations, and it makes it really difficult, because if price just took off to the upside, then it becomes easy, like everybody can see it. But it's going to give you periods of consolidations. It's going to give you periods where you're having massive pullbacks again, and that's why I'm looking at this structure right here, and I'm anticipating and saying there is this possibility. If we maintain this trend line on the 4-hour time frame, you could see prices headed to 110. But an inability, let's say price pulls back, because you should see a pullback to this trend line. So I'm going to show you something right here. You look at this piece of price action right here. You can look at this on the hourly time frame, because a violation of this means price is going to pull back to this 4-hour trend line. So you can look at this on the hourly time frame. So on the hourly time frame, this is the piece I'm looking at right here. So this piece right here, you can put a trend line here. So you have this trend line on the hourly time frame. So price is respecting this area as well. I just want to make sure this is on the hourly time frame only. Yeah. So on the hourly time frame, you see this massive move to the upside. You see this consolidation, and you see price taking off to the upside. So currently on the hourly time frame, you have price coming back to this trend line, and you might see some consolidation again, an inability for prices to go to the upside. That's what I'm looking at. You might see a breach of this on the hourly time frame. If this happens on the hourly time frame, then I'll step back to the 4-hour time frame and look at what price is trying to do, because a violation of this area of this trend on the hourly time frame, then you can see prices coming back to this area on the 4-hour time frame. So once price comes back to this area, then you need to wait again and see what these guys on the 4-hour time frame is like they're trying to do. So if they take off again with the buys, then we headed to 110. But an inability for prices to take out this area, then we can see prices dropping again to 105. So that's what I'm looking at, and those are the possibilities I'm looking at on the DXY. So currently the DXY is at the crucial point, and I think it's always crucial when you look at the DXY, because it tells you a lot. And so I always take my time when I'm looking at the DXY and just make sure I have it correct. I have everything set up correctly while I headed into the next week. Now I might be wrong, but if I'm wrong again, guys, you're looking at this impulse, you're looking at the correction, you're looking at this impulse, you're looking at the correction, price is taking up. So if I'm wrong, then you should see the price coming back to the downside. But if I'm correct again, then you're looking at this push right here, inability for prices to go through this trend line. You're looking at a move to 110. An inability for prices to break this area. Let's say you get a test of this area right here. So let's say you get a test of this area right here. An inability for prices to move to the upside, you should see prices moving to the downside. So you're setting yourself up for two possibilities right here. And let's look at this. I'm going to make this bigger and show you what I'm looking at. So look at this move right here. If prices decide to come back to this trend line as a pullback, this period of, let's say, this downward movement on the DXY, you should expect other pairs like S&P, NAS, US30 and gold to move to the upside. And once price gets to an area like this and you see this failure at this point for prices to move again to the downside, as it starts moving to the upside, you should expect those other pairs to start moving again to the downside. So that's why it's very important for you to do the focus thing, like picking these directions on the DXY, because it makes it easy once you're looking at other pairs and you can already tell what is setting up, what is aligning on those other pairs. So this is something I'll be looking at. And let's say you get this inability at this point and a breach and a movement to the downside, it's just going to give you more buys again on those other pairs, S&P, NAS, US30 and gold. So that's what I'm looking at on the DXY. So once you have this narrative on the DXY, you can take this now, you move to other pairs and you see if there's anything that's lining up. So the first one we're looking at is US30. So this is US30 on the daily time frame, and the same analysis we've been doing. So same principles as well. You have your impulse, you have your correction thing, you have your impulse, you have this consolidation, pivot point was set, and you had price taken off to the upside. So currently we're playing around 45,000, that psychological level. So looking at this on the daily time frame, we're using two principles again. You have a trend line, you have a psychological level, and that's the basis when you're looking at the direction and where price is most likely going to go to. So looking at this right now on the daily time frame, we're playing off of this swing move on the daily time frame. So at some point in time, you should expect prices to drop back to this daily trend line and for you to see the buys taking off again. Now this is going to take time. It might take some time, so it might take, let's say, a couple of weeks, it might take months for you to see these prices moving to this daily trend line. So but what you can do is go off of these basic principles. So price came off of this swing move and we got to this area 45,000, which is a psychological level right here. So once we got to this level of 45,000, price hasn't gone through 45,000. So going off of the principle of psychological levels, what are you expecting? If price finds it difficult to go through an area like this, you should expect prices to come back to 40,000, which is the next psychological level below 45,000. Now, in as much as you're expecting prices to move all the way to 40,000, you need to bring in the trend lines, and that's why I say we're looking at two concepts here. You have psychological levels and you have the trend lines. When you combine these two principles, it makes it really easy. It's like a game changer. So you're looking at this move to the downside, but at the back of your mind again, you understand price is still moving to the upside. So there's a trend line you can look at. So this is a daily time frame, and if you have this right here as the origin of this swing move, so if this is a starting point of the swing move on the daily time frame, then you can step down to the 8-hour time frame and look at this piece of price action. So everything you see here as a swing move on the daily time frame, it's actually a trend on the 8-hour time frame. So you look at this now on the 8-hour time frame, and this is what we're looking at right here. So you have this trend on the 8-hour time frame, and you can dissect this trend as well. So I'm going to show you what I'm looking at right here. So let's do this. All right, so I'll zoom out and show you, and then I'll zoom in. So you have this impulse, you have this correction thing, and you have price taking off. So giving you this swing move on the 8-hour time frame, which you can look at on the 4-hour time frame. So on the 8-hour time frame, this is what we've been looking at. Remember guys, we said this during previous weeks. So you had this swing move right here, you had this consolidation, price set the pivot point, you had the swing move. This is something we've been looking at. This had to come back to this area so that the buyers again on the 8-hour time frame could reattempt the buys to take prices again to the upside. So just looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, and you're going off of this pivot levels that has been set. You had this origin from here, you had this first pivot point. So as price pulls back to this area, you're expecting this pivot point to hold, and you're expecting the buyers again to take prices to the upside. And that's what I'm looking at on the 8-hour time frame. So if price has to move to the upside, we're looking at this psychological level of 45,000. That's where price is most likely going to test 45,000. So now you need to step down to lower time frames again and start putting these things together. So I'm going to show you something real quick. Let's zoom into an area like this. Let's zoom in right here. So you're looking at this piece right here. As price took off, everything you see right here, this entire move, this swing move, that's a trend on the 4-hour time frame. So this trend on the 4-hour time frame got violated, so prices could deliver to the 8-hour time frame. So currently on the 8-hour time frame, we haven't really tested this trend line, so there's still a possibility for prices to sell again to this trend line, to have a proper test of this trend line, and then you see prices moving again to the upside. So that's still a possibility. So first possibility is on US30. You could see a further sell again to the downside to test this trend line properly, and you see an attempt from the buyers. And if the buyers step in again at this point, I'm looking at 45,000. Now, an inability for prices, let's say, an inability for prices to get to 45,000 or to even take out this area of 45,000, this could be an indication that price is dropping again to the downside. So once you start looking at price this way, you can then look at what's happening on the daily time frame like this, and you start putting these things together. So you're looking at this move on the 8-hour time frame right here. So you have your impulse, correction, swing move, pivot point set on the 8-hour time frame. You should expect prices to move to the upside and take out these highs and test this psychological level of 45,000. So an inability for these prices to move to the upside, to take out these highs and to test this psychological level, you could see a break of this trend line. So you could see a break of this trend line from the 8-hour time frame, which could be a clear indication that price is probably moving all the way to 40,000 and maybe a consolidation thing, and then a further test of this trend line from the daily time frame. So it's just a lot, but looking at it from the daily time frame is still a very massive move, and we still have this 8-hour trend line thing I'm looking at. So we still have the 8-hour trend line I'm looking at, and still there's still possibilities for us to move to the upside. And so this is what I'm looking at. So when you're looking at the sales, I think the sales that came up all the way from 45,000, we're looking at this sales from 45,000, and this thing, it kept dropping to the downside. It kept dropping and dropping and dropping, but right now we had this inability right here. So just looking at this, if there is a possibility that we'll get, let's say, how do you get involved in a situation like this? If we get a push again to the downside and inability for prices to go through this area, then you can look for buys all the way to 45,000. So all you can do right now is look for these setups that tells you like the sellers have come to an end, and then you're looking for possibilities to buy. So let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame. All right, cool. So we're looking at this on the 4-hour time frame, and this is something I explained already. So you're looking at your impulse on the 4-hour time frame. You have your correction. There's a swing move on the 4-hour time frame. There's a correction. There's a swing move on the 4-hour time frame. There's a correction. So at this point, I was expecting the buyers to come in again. The buyers didn't come in, and we had this break or this violation to the downside. So looking at this right now, you might be tempted to say, because we've had this break of this trend line, prices moving to the downside, sellers are coming into the market, and you're expecting prices to get to the next psychological level, which is 40,000. But you need to pause, and that's why I say look at the trend lines on different time frames, look at the psychological levels and make sense of what's happening. So when you have an underlying you have an underlying principle, you need to understand the time frames you're looking at. You need to understand, like, there's just different structures you can look at. So I'm going to clean this. You have the break of this trend line on the 4-hour time frame. You should normally see prices moving all the way to 40,000. But then this is on the 4-hour time frame, and let's say you're just looking at this on the 4-hour time frame. You're looking at this inability right here for prices to go through 45,000. You see sellers coming in, taking out this trend line, and now you're expecting prices to move all the way to 40,000. So why are you expecting prices to move all the way to 40,000? Look at the time frame higher. So look at this time frame on the look at the 8-hour time frame and ask yourself, is it possible for us to move all the way to 40,000 without facing some resistance around here? So once you start looking at price this way, in as much as you've seen these sellers coming in on the 4-hour time frame, it could simply be a delivery to this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So expect some buys again from the 8-hour time frame for prices to go to the upside. But once you see now this inability for prices to go to the upside, the difficulty for prices to get to 45,000, difficulties for price to take out this area, now you can sell and take it all the way to 45,000. So that's the only point where you can take those sales confidently and drop the prices all the way to 45,000. But currently, if you're looking at this from the 4-hour time frame, yes, we've taken out this trend line. Yes, you're expecting prices to move to the downside, but at the same time you understand what's happening on the 8-hour time frame. So there's still a possibility for buyers to come in. So I'm going to watch this and see, and just see how far the buyers want to take prices to the upside, and I'll look at the structures and see if there's a possibility for me to take the buys. And once I see the buys failing, then it's another possibility for us to take the sells all the way to 40,000. Alright guys, so that's what I'm looking at on US30, and let's look at the next pair, and the next one is NAS100. So this is clean as well, and there's a lot of price action now. So look at this NAS100 on the daily time frame. You have your impulse move, you have a pullback thing, you have a swing move, you have this period of consolidation, price giving you the pivot point, you have price taking off again to the upside. So as price takes off to the upside, you have a swing move on the daily time frame. This swing move on the daily time frame, it's a trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So where is price currently at, and where is price most likely going to go to? So we had price trading from 22,000 and price dropped all the way to 21,000. So we're currently sat on the psychological level. So going off of the principle of psychological levels, an inability of prices to break through 21,000, you should expect prices to go back to 22,000. So that's what we're looking on the daily time frame. So you can clean this, zoom into an area like this, and use the psychological levels. Price came all the way to 22,000, inability of prices to go through 22,000, and you had price dropping to 21,000. So going off of the principle of psychological levels, an inability for prices to take out this area, you should see prices moving back to 22,000 and probably go above 22,000. So now you have this at the back of your mind, you can step down to the 8-hour time frame and see what's actually happening. So on the 8-hour time frame now, I'm going to make this bigger like this. So on the 8-hour time frame, we'll do the same thing again. You have this move to the upside, you had a consolidation, you had your pivot point set, you had price taking off, a pull back to this pivot point, and price starts moving up. And here you have a swing which got violated on the 4-hour time frame, giving you this delivery to the 8-hour time frame. So looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, you have price currently sat around this area. So you're looking at this trend line on the 8-hour time frame, and price is taking out this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. So once you have price taken out an area like this, you're still looking at two principles again right here. You have the trend line that has been violated, but in as much as you have a violation of this trend line, price is currently sat at this psychological level. So there's still a possibility, looking at NAS100, for prices to have a test of this area, of this highs, and for prices to test this psychological level right here. So if you see this inability for prices to go through this area, so you see an inability for prices to go through 21,000, then you could see prices buying again to 22,000, and then another attempt again from the sellers to take prices to the downside. So that's what I'm looking on the 8-hour time frame, just this possibilities for buyers and possibilities for sellers. So in a situation like this, I'm going to clean this. In a situation like this, it's always very difficult once you have this impulse move to the downside, because normally when you have price moving to the upside, you should expect a correction to come in like this, so you can fit this correction, you see when it fails, and then you take the buys. But when it comes in impulsive like this, it's very difficult. So like with a pair like this currently on NAS100, you need to be very careful. Like personally, I'm going to be very careful and wait for the perfect timing before I go in on this one again. But going off of this principle, you have price currently sat at 21,000, and inability for prices to go through 21,000, you should expect prices to come back and test 22,000. So looking at this currently, we've had price trading outside this trend line. So price trading outside this trend line doesn't mean the buyers are out of this market. No, it simply means sellers have stepped in, and if you're looking for the buyers, you should hold on a little bit, pause a little bit, and wait for the right setup to see if the buyers have an intention again to take prices to 22,000 and even test this highs, and probably see prices moving to the upside. So it's always like a temporal thing, like be careful, just watch it and see what price is trying to do. So it doesn't mean the buyers are off on this price. So I'll look at this on the daily one more time. So you're looking at this on the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, on the daily time frame, everything you see right here, this is a swing move, and this swing move on the 8-hour time frame right here, the swing move on the 8-hour time frame is simply a trend line. So if you're looking at something like this, once you put a trend line on the 8-hour time frame, it's a little bit different, like you can then see. So you have this pullback, price taking off, you have this pullback, price taking off, and so you have this pullback. And so looking at this again from the 8-hour time frame, there is still that possibility for prices to move to 22,000 and for prices to take out this area. So I'm going to clean this and show you something. So you're looking at this move on the 8-hour time frame. let's say you're looking at this move on the 8-hour time frame. So if price finds it difficult to buy, to take out this area and to take out this highs, then you can see price breaking off. You get a test of 21,000, this psychological level again, but most likely you see prices coming back to this trend line on the daily time frame, and for you to see the buys taking off again. So that's a possibility. So there's two possibilities right now. So on the 8-hour time frame, you can step down to the 8-hour time frame, you look for these buys again to the upside, something like this, to have a test of 22,000. But an inability for prices to go through 22,000, an inability for prices to test this, then you can see sellers coming in again. You have a test of 21,000, you have a test of this trend line, and for you to see prices moving to the upside. So that's something I'm looking at, and that's something I'm going to pay attention to. So on the 8-hour time frame, so you're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, and because I have this trend line right here, so currently it looks like you're having a break of this area, and that's why I said a break of a trend line, it doesn't necessarily mean you've come to an end, like the buyers are out of the market. No, it just means you might have sellers coming in temporarily. So you might still see like the buyers stepping in, trying again an attempt to take out this area, an attempt to take out these highs. If it fails, you see price coming back to 21,000, you see price delivering to the daily trend line thing, and then you see buyers stepping in again. So that's what I'm looking at. You can look at this on the 4-hour time frame just to see what's happening. So on the 4-hour time frame, I think we was looking at this move to the upside. So I was looking at this move, there's a pullback, there's a move, and then price violated this trend line. So looking at this piece right here, I'm still looking at possibilities again. As I told you, there's still possibilities for us to look at this as a pullback, and you see prices buying. And I think you can, let's say, step down to the hourly. So this is on the hourly time frame. So you're looking at this move right here. You have this violation of the trend line, you have buyers coming in. So remember what's happening on the 8-hour time frame. So let's do this. So you're looking at this again on the 8-hour time frame. So remember, you still have this price action moving to the upside. So you could see prices, so let's say coming into next week, you can see prices opening, and you see this buyer step in again, and price just pulls back into this trend line like properly, and you see like the pullback thing, and when price starts moving to the upside. So that's why when I'm looking at this on the hourly time frame, and I'm looking at this piece of price action right here, you see this impulse move, you see this correction, and you can see another impulse, you see a correction, you see the buys again moving to the upside. So how can you tell if this is failing to move to the upside? So let's say you have an impulse, you have a correction, you should normally wait for this correction to stop, and you see price moving again to the upside. But what if you're looking at this and price starts finding it difficult to move to the upside? Once you see this inability on the hourly time frame, now you should expect prices to drop to 21,000 and possibly drop lower, so the buyers can come in again from the daily time frame. So pay attention to this. Impulse, pullback, inability, you should see prices moving to the upside. But an inability for these prices to move to the upside and stuff like this, you should see prices dropping. Now if this happens, then you can look again on the 8-hour time frame, and it's going to confirm like what you're looking at right here, this bridge of this trend line right here. So on the hourly time frame, like the minor structure thing, you're looking at that pullback thing, inability, pullback, inability on this, around this area. It's just telling you price is going to drop down to 21,000, and price can go lower than this. So you can look at the trend line thing from the daily, and for buyers to step in again. So that's what I'm looking at on NAS100. So personally, I'm gonna sit on my hands on this one, and the reason is simple. I don't like this impulse move like this. If it came in as a corrective move, it will have been very easy for me to fit this move and look for buying opportunities. Alright guys, so that's it for me on NAS100. Let's look at the S&P real quick. Alright, cool. So this is the S&P500 on the daily time frame as well. So same principle, you have price moving to the upside, you had a pullback, consolidation thing, pivot point, there's a swing move. So looking at this on the daily time frame, price is currently sat around 6,000, this psychological level. So an inability for prices to go through this area, you should see prices coming back to test 5,500 and most likely you've seen a test of this area of this trend line on the daily time frame, so we can take prices again to the upside. So while waiting for this to happen, you can zoom in and look at price. So where is price currently at? So price is currently sat around 6,000. Where is price most likely going to go to? If price finds it difficult to go through 6,000, so if you find it difficult for price to move to the upside, basic like common sense, you should see prices coming back to 5,500. So that's what I'm looking at on the daily time frame on the S&P 500. Now, once you're expecting prices to move back to 5,500, so an inability for price to go through 6,000, you should expect prices to drop to 5,500. Now, you need to bring in now the trend lines to see, and that's why I say you need two principles. One is just the psychological levels, telling you where price is most likely going to gravitate to, and then the second principle is just a trend line. So you're using the trend line to see or to gauge if there's going to be like any roadblocks for you to move to the next level, and if it's going to, so the trend line can help in two ways. One, it can tell you, it's going to tell you if there's a roadblock for prices to drop to the downside. So you're looking at this and it's going to tell you this might be a roadblock for prices to drop to the downside, but at the same time it's like it's doing two things. If price gets to this point and there's an inability for price to go through this area, it serves as leverage again for you to buy off of those areas and take prices again to the upside. So let's look at this on the 8-hour time frame right here. So this is what I'm looking on the 8-hour time frame. Very simple, very clean as well. So you're looking at this move right here. Everything is like an impulse move. You have this consolidation, price sets the pivot, you have the next impulse move right there. So let's zoom in on this price action so I can show you guys what I'm looking at. So look at this move right here. So you had this move to the upside, which is a swing move on the 8-hour time frame, but on lower time frames like the 4-hour time frame, you had this trend line which got violated, delivering prices to the 8-hour time frame. So looking at this, because you have a pivot set already on the 8-hour time frame, so as price is moving to these areas, there's a pivot that has been set. As price gets to this area, you're expecting prices to buy off of this area. So let's look at this and pay attention. Remember what's happening on the daily time frame. This is how you piece these things together. So normally, as price moves to this 8-hour trend line, so you're expecting buys to take off from an area like this, and the reason is simple, because price has set the pivot point already for you. So you have your pivot set, so you're looking at this area right here. So as price gets to an area like this, you're expecting prices to buy off of this area. So if price is buying off of this area, you're looking at 6,000. We need to take out this psychological level, we need to take out these highs for prices to move to the upside. Now let's piece this together. Look at what's happening on the daily, and then you step back again on the 8-hour time frame. So let's look at the daily right here. So see how this is playing out. You have this impulse move on the daily time frame, you have this psychological level of 6,000, an inability for prices to break through 6,000, stay above 6,000, pull back and do something like this. Once you see this inability for prices to go through 6,000, you should expect prices to drop to 5,500. Now step down to the 8-hour time frame, and this is how you can gauge and just tell if there's a possibility for this trend line on the 8-hour time frame to get violated. So you know what you're looking on the daily time frame. You know you're currently sat around 6,000. An inability for prices to go through 6,000 on the daily time frame, you should expect prices to drop down to 5,500. But because we're having this trend line on the 8-hour time frame, this is a roadblock right here because there's a pivot point, and once you have a pivot point, you're expecting prices to buy off of these areas like massively. You're expecting massive buys to come off of this area and take prices to the upside. So while we're looking at this, we had buyers stepping in. So we had buyers stepping in from here, from the pivot point. You can see we had buyers stepping in, taking prices back to 6,000. If these buyers are stepping in from this pivot point and they find it difficult to take prices above 6,000, then there's a problem. Because normally, once you have prices coming back to the pivot point and the trend line on this time frame, on the 8-hour time frame, which price has shown you like previously, it should take off from an area like this with impulsive buys or massively. if price finds it difficult to go through 6,000, then you should already start looking for selling opportunities to take prices all the way to 5,500. So however, if this piece right here stays the same and price finds it difficult to break through this area, then you could see prices moving again to the upside. So I think the S&P is currently at a very good spot, and once you understand what's happening on the DXY, and it depending on the direction the DXY decides to move, you can then look at a pair like the S&P500 and you start making sense of this piece of price action right here. And everything that happens here is just a possibility for you to either take prices to the upside or you look for these selling opportunities. So I think it's quite, looking at where the S&P is sat currently, a move above 6,000 and price staying above 6,000, I'm looking for those buys. And an inability for prices to go through 6,000, we could probably see the break of this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. And if this happens, you're expecting this massive moves again to the downside. So you're looking at those sells again to the downside. So that's what I'm looking on the S&P 500. And let's look at the 4-hour time frame. Let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame real quick. So on the 4-hour time frame, you had this impulse move, you had the correction, everything right here was a swing move. So normally I was expecting prices to get to this 4-hour trend line and you take a buy, and I was expecting this because so you had the trend line, you had the cycle level around this area, and I was expecting prices normally to get to an area like this so we can take the buys. But you look at this, there's a violation on this time frame, on the 4-hour time frame. So this violation on the 4-hour time frame simply delivered prices to the 8-hour time frame. So everything you see here as a violation on the 4-hour time frame is simply delivery of price to the 8-hour time frame. So you're looking at this on the 8-hour time frame. Everything that came in as a sell from the 4-hour time frame is simply delivery on the 8-hour time frame. You're expecting prices to move again to the upside. So we need to see what's going to happen once the markets open, because if price opens and you see this difficulty for the sellers to, normally sellers should take prices from this psychological level and drop it down, but this inability for prices to go through this trend line, you see prices pulling back, you see prices moving to the upside. But then if the markets open and you see prices dropping out again, or this inability for the buyers to go through 6,000 and for the buyers to test highs like this, then we're dropping it down to 5,500. So that's it for me on the S&P 500. I'll pay attention to this pair because it makes a little bit more sense right now. And let's look at gold, and there's a bonus pair I'm going to show you guys later on. So we're looking at gold again on the daily time frame. Same thing, same principle. You have price moving to the upside thing, consolidation, pivot point set, and you have your swing move. So if you zoom, let's zoom in on this area right here on the swing move on the daily time frame, and there's just a few questions you can ask yourself. And remember, I took 2 losses on this pair, so I'm down 1.5% on gold. So you have this swing move right here on gold. So where is price currently at, and where is price most likely going to gravitate to? So I'm going to zoom in again one more time. Let's see. All right, cool. Something like this. So you have this swing move on the daily time frame. So once you have your swing move on the daily time frame, this on the 8-hour time frame is a trend line thing. So you're looking at that on the 8 hours as a trend line. But then let's use the first principle again, going off of psychological levels. Price came through 2,500. So you're expecting prices on gold to normally move all the way to 3,000. So that's what I'm looking at, the possibility for prices to move all the way to 3,000. So you can look at this on lower time frames and start asking yourself, if price is currently sat close to 2,500 and we had this pullback, we didn't really get a test of 2,500, but if price is moving from one cycle level to the next cycle level and you had a move like this, you've seen this as a pullback, you had a move like this, you've seen this as a pullback with a correction thing. So look at this. If price is moving from one cycle level to the next, you've seen this move, you see a correction thing, you see this move. So you could look at this as a correction as well, and you're expecting prices to move again to 3,000. So now, once you have this principle set correct and everything, you align with this principle, the movement from one side level to the next, bring in the trend line, because the trend line is going to help you. It's going to act as leverage, or it's going to act as a roadblock. So I'm going to show you this. So step down to the 8-hour time frame real quick. This is it on the 8-hour time frame. So the same piece of price action we're looking at, this is it on the 8-hour time frame. So we're looking at this. There's an impulse, there's a correction right here. You have an impulse, you have a correction, you have an impulse, a correction. So at this point right here, so from this point to this point right here, you're looking at everything, and that was something that was happening on the 4-hour time frame, because that was a swing move on the 8-hour time frame. So if we take this out and we zoom into an area like this, I'll show you what I'm looking at on gold, and there's certain possibilities we can see. So going off of what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, hold on. So you should normally be expecting prices to come back to an area like this and for buyers to take off again. But then we're looking at this again on the 4-hour time frame, and we're looking at the possibilities for this to buy again to the upside. So look at this right now on the 8-hour time frame right here. So this is something I'm looking at. So you have an impulse right here, you have this consolidation or this slow down, like this slow movement on gold right now. So you can look at this as a consolidation thing, and you're expecting prices again to move to the upside. There is still this possibility for us to see prices coming back to this trend line. So you can see prices dropping from an area like this to have a test of this trend line right here, so the buyers can step in again. That's a possibility, that's something that can happen. But then let's step back, let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame. So look at this on the 4-hour time frame real quick. So I had this move on the 4-hour time frame. Let's see, something like this. So we had this impulse on the 4-hour time frame, we had price breaking out, we had this consolidation. So I'm looking at this consolidation right now, price moving and doing stuff like this, and we currently sat at the bottom of this range. So if price has to move to the upside, then this could be a very good point for us to see buyers stepping in and for us to take prices again to the upside. So when you combine this, you look at what's happening on the 8-hour time frame, you look at this space on the 8-hour time frame, you have this swing move on the 8-hour time frame, you're looking at this consolidation, you're expecting prices to move to the upside. So what I'm looking at currently is a possibility for price to move and take out this area, and you see prices stepping all the way to 3,000. So you could see buyers coming in. Here's something I'm looking at on gold. You could see buyers coming in to take out these highs and probably find it difficult to take out this high. So you might see the buyers like this, and you see a pullback again and another test of this area for prices to move to the upside. And so when you look at this pair, as I told you guys, I have my buy positions on gold currently, and my intention is to have a test of this area, and probably see some resistance and price coming back for us to move again to the upside. So I could be totally wrong, so I'm going to show you something like this. Looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, so I could be wrong, like completely wrong, and you see price just dropping again to the downside, and then I'll look for those buys again to the upside. But currently this is what I have playing out. So currently I have this move to the upside, there was this pullback. I'm looking at this period right here of this consolidation. Once price is at the bottom of the range thing, that's the best spot where you can buy, because that's the best price you can get. So if price starts buying from here, this is the first area I'm looking at, this is the next area I'm looking at, and my intention with this one is to see prices headed all the way to 3,000. So the only difficulty currently with gold is if this price is going to pull back to an area like this, or just take off from an area like this. So if price starts moving to the upside, I'm watching this closely. If we see this move to the upside and an inability for this price to move to the upside, so you see buyers stepping in, you see this slow reaction from the buyers, it could tell you sellers might take prices again to the downside. So it's at a very good area, it's at a very good spot. The same principle I've been trading. You see the move to the upside, you see a consolidation, and you can see this price moving again to the upside. But you're aligning this with everything that's been happening from the daily, the 8 hours, the 4 hours, the hourly. You're just putting everything together to make sense of it. So again, you can see a move like this, you see push down, and you see prices moving to the upside. So those are all possibilities. So looking at this again, you can step down, let's say to the 4-hour time frame. Let's look at this on the 4-hour time frame. I showed you guys what I was looking at on the 4-hour time frame, and I think I'm gonna stop on the 4-hour time frame. There's no need for me to step down to the hourly and stuff like that. So let's just go to the hourly, and I'll show you guys the entries I had on gold. So right here. So remember, what you're looking at currently on gold, like right now, is just like, let's say, massive consolidation thing. So you're looking at this move right here. You see this push, you see price coming back, you see price taking out this area, you see this push again. So you could see a pullback to an area like this, and you see price moving again to the upside. So currently I have my buys on gold, and I'm going to hold this. So the intention is just to see prices taking out certain areas. If we can take out this area, that's one. So if we can take out this area, that's going to be like very massive, and that's a move I'm currently watching. So again, it depends on what's going to happen on the DXY. So I could be totally wrong on this. If I'm wrong on this, then you see prices, you see these prices dropping down. But remember guys, I did attempt the buys on this like 2 times. So I tried the buys at this point, it stopped me out. I tried the buys at this point, it stopped me out. I tried the buys again at this point, and currently price is now moving to the upside. I think I'm currently sat at about 1% on this, or maybe 1 point something percent on this move. So if this consolidates again, so I'm going to show you something. So you can look at this on lower time frame. If this puts in another structure like this, where it consolidates again, and you can see price moving again to the upside. Maybe you get something like this, you get a move to the upside. You get something like this, you get a move to the upside. So that's how I'm going to look at this, and that's how I'm going to manage the trade as it's moving, just paying attention to everything. So that's what I'm looking at on gold. Let's take this out, and I'll show you guys the bonus pair I'm looking at, and that's China 50. So I had somebody ask me if I could do China 50. So I think this is a Chinese index, and I haven't looked at this pair, so I had to do a quick look at this one over the weekend, just to be sure, like during the week, just to be sure I'm looking at the correct thing. So for those who trade this pair, let's do this. I'm going to be quick with this one because the time is almost up. So I'm looking at this on the daily time frame. This is China 50. We're using the same principle. Pay attention to this. So you might look at this in two different ways. You might look at this and say, so this move is coming in like this is this is 2015, and this is not enough data for me to play with, but let's see, I'll just make sense of this. So we're looking at this right now. You might look at this as a massive consolidation, but I'm going to look at it differently, and I'll look at it this way. You have this move, there's a pullback, there's a move, and stuff like this. So within this consolidation thing that you're looking at, I can look at this move right here, and you see price coming back to the downside, and that's why you see you have a trend line sloping this way. So I'm looking at this initial move, and that's looking at this as a consolidation, or I'm waiting for this consolidation and for price to do its thing, and so we can see this move again to the upside. So currently on this pair, the pivot point hasn't been set, and I'm just going off of the data I'm working with. So all I have right now, I'm using forex.com, I think, and it gives me data all the way to 2015. If I had more data to see what's been happening, let's say from 2003 2002, so dating like going back in time, it should make it really easy for me to analyze this pair, but I'm working with data from 2015, so it's a little bit tricky. So you have this initial move, you have price pulling back down. So looking at China 50, at some point we have to take out this high, so we need to have a test of this highs. So currently we had this impulse move. So what you see right here, for me, I consider this move right here as a swing move, and everything that you're seeing here is just a consolidation or a pullback. So I'm looking at this right now. Where is price currently sat at? Price is currently sat at 15,000. So it's currently trading between 15,000 and 2,500. So between these two areas. if price comes back to an area like this, we could see maybe a test of this trend line and a move again to the upside. So looking at this from the daily time frame, what's my take on this? Here is the swing move, here is the consolidation or the pullback. So I'm expecting prices again to continue to move to the upside, but then it depends on what's happening on lower time frames, because if you have a trend line on a lower time frame, you could see this as an impulse move, correction, impulse, correction, and for price to move again to the upside. So let's look at this on the 8-hour time frame. Let's see. I think my internet's messing up right now. So I'm looking at this on the 8-hour time frame. So if this, let's say from what we're looking at on the daily, if that price decides to move like this, so you had this correction right here, you had the impulse, price is currently consolidating. If this is what we're looking at, we should expect prices to move again to the upside, taking out this area, giving you a test of this psychological level, maybe a pullback, and a move like this to the upside. So on China 50, I'm gonna stay on the daily time frame, because the pivot excuse me, because the pivot has not been set on the daily time frame like right now. So I'm just gonna wait. But this is my swing move thing. This is a pullback. We're still moving to the upside, so I'm just waiting for this to consolidate, for this to finish, and then we see this area taken out. So long term for me, impulse correction, and a move to the upside. So I think it's not really complex like that for this pair, and I just needed more price action from like 2003, 2001 to actually see the structure move that's actually playing out. But going over what's happening like 2015 to now, that's all I can say. You have the swing move, you have your pullback. Price hasn't really given us the pivot point to work with. So with a pair like this, I'll wait to see how these consolidations come in, or these pullbacks. You might have a breach and you see prices coming back to this area, and you're looking for a move again to the upside. So that's something I'm gonna look at. So let's see. So you had this pullback, you had this move, so you might see price coming back down. You get like giving you a test of 2500 or a test of this area, and you see prices moving to the upside. So there could be a possibility as well you get prices testing 10,000, but then we're still playing within this trend line move. There's a swing move, there's a push right here, price moving. You could see prices coming back, and you see a move to the upside. So if I was trading this pair, I'll go off of this structure on the daily time frame, and then I'll start moving to lower time frames to see if there's anything that makes sense. But that's China 50, guys. I wish I picked, let's say, different liquidity provider that gave me more price action. Yeah, but this is all I can work with. So swing move right here, consolidation, pullback. You're expecting a move again to the upside. The psychological levels I'm looking at 2500, 15,000, 17,500 and stuff like that, and that's how you can move progressively. 17,500, which is an area around here, and later on you're looking at 20,000. So those are the areas and those are the cycle levels I'll be looking at if I was trading this pair. All right, guys, so that's it for me for this week. If you have any pair you want me to analyze next week, just drop it in the comment section below. And again, make sure you watched last week's market focus and the one that's coming up, just so you can stay in tune with everything that's happening. All right, guys, stay patient, trade what you see, trade your plan, and see you during the next one. Bye for now.